Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. Finally, Robert Mueller has completed his investigation into so-called Trump collusion with Russia. There are no additional indictments. The report is finished, but the fallout continues. Cross-talking the Mueller Report, I'm joined by my guest, Xavier Moreau. He is the founder of the Center of Political Strategic Analysis, Stratpol. And in London, we cross to Marcus Papadopoulos. He's the editor of Politics First magazine. Crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want, and I always appreciate it. All right, gentlemen, I want to show what I brought here for show and tell here. This is a nothing burger, just like the Mueller Report here. See, there's nothing inside, nothing to see. And so we will keep this here as a reminder of the report here. Marcus, let me go to you first. In London. Everybody can talk about there's no new indictments, the Kushner family, Trump family, they're not implicated in all of this, circus for 2.5 years here. But I think one thing that's not being considered very much on the cable networks is we still have political consequences for this ridiculous hoax that has captivated the political class and the media class, and the kind of relationship or lack of relationship that Russia and the United States has, and the kind of relationship that Europe has with Russia. What are the implications for you, and will they go away anytime soon?
Well, I'll say, first of all, that I think the wrong country was investigated, because had Robert Mueller investigated Saudi Arabia, Israel and Qatar's interference in the 2016 US presidential election, then undoubtedly he would have indicted both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. But turning to Mr. Mueller's investigation, yes, it does, what was behind it has grave consequences for international relations. The relationship between America and Russia is even worse today than how it was under Barack Obama. But there is another important dimension to this. This investigation has cost something to the tune of $35 million. $35 million that could have been better spent on tackling widespread poverty across the US. And I think the American taxpayer should be angry, and they need to direct their anger at the men and women who work for American mainstream media, such as CNN, because it is American media that brought about, ultimately, this investigation. And so I think that this is now an opportunity for there to be an investigation in America into the conduct of American mainstream media, because Robert Mueller's investigation, and I have a lot of respect for Mr. Mueller, his investigation has demonstrated there was no Russian interference in 2016. Yet mainstream media in America told the American public, told the world that it was. So they need to be investigated, and they need to be shamed for having lied.
Well, we're going to do our best on this program and moving forward to do exactly that. Xavier, it's really interesting how Europe mirrored the U.S. during this witch hunt. I think it's an appropriate term, witch hunt. But it spoiled, well, made it even worse, the type of relationship that Europe has with Russia. For example, I mean, Trump's haranguing of Merkel over energy policy here. It's because Russia meddled in the election. They are the mortal threat here. It actually, supersedes, common state-to-state reactions here, because you've created this boogeyman that, you can't negotiate with. I mean, I don't see how you move back the needle, even though the report says there's nothing there.
Yes, of course. Actually, the problem is the European elite have the problem with the European Union. And actually, it's the same problem that with the elite in the United States. It doesn't work. But they don't want to take in consideration the real problem of the real people. So the best solution for them is to accuse Russia and to make Putin guilty for every incompetences they have leading the country they have in charge. So it's in my opinion, this narrative is very convenient, but at least it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work in France anymore. It doesn't work in Germany. And sometimes when we have some so strategic questions like energy, because for instance for the German industry, having the Russian gas, the cheap Russian gas, is so important that even this anti-Russian narrative doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So there is some hope.
It has limits.
Yes,
it has limits.
There is some hope, but you know, I can when I observe what happened in France, sometimes when they have very no response to the French people, again you will see this Russian gate narrative come back to during for instance the next European election. Because I have nothing else to say.
You know, Marcus, let me go back to you. We had a series of sanctions come into place as a result of Russian meddling. Well, if there was no Russian meddling, so I suppose those sanctions will be rescinded? Probably not. Marcus.
Oh, I think that would be a cold day in hell. Yeah. There's absolutely no chance of America's sanctions being rescinded. Of course, the pretext for additional American sanctions on Russia was the allegation, which as we knew then, as we know today, was a complete fabrication. But then we also need to be realistic. America and Russia see the world in a very different way. They are the most powerful countries in the world. And so because of that reality, there is always going to be bitter animosity between the two, bitter rivalry. And I have to say that it is mainly as a result of America's unwillingness to share power in the world with Russia. Now, we spoke just now about the European Union. Well, one aspect of Brexit that is not being considered by many commentators is that once Britain leaves the European Union, and it is going to leave, there might be, and I emphasize might be, an opportunity for a slight improvement in relations between the European Union and Russia. Why? Because Britain will be gone. Because Britain has been doing the bidding on behalf of America.
Very good point. Very good point.
Britain that put pressure on France and Germany to put sanctions on Russia. So there might be a positive dimension to Brexit in the context of relations between Brussels and Moscow.
What do you think about that, Xavier? Because we know that the support of sanctions, European sanctions against Russia, are less and less popular. But it's very difficult for elites to admit that they were wrong. Okay, and that creates a problem here. I mean, I remember during the German elections, remarkably enough, a headline was, "Where was the Russian meddling? We can't find it." This fear of not knowing what you don't know. I mean, it's gone so insane. Is that, whenever something goes wrong in Europe, and a lot is going wrong in Europe, and I blame the elites that are in power, they don't take responsibility. They always have someone to blame and a country to blame.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting because we are talking about Brexit, but there is no Russian collusion in the United States, but there is U.S. collusion in England. Because I would like to remind you that Barack Obama came officially in England to support the Bremen. So what we are talking about, it's like a projection of the guilt.
Well, what would have happened if Putin had gone to Scotland during the Scottish referendum? Well, that wouldn't have been called meddling. Of course it would have been. Yeah,
of course. It's exactly the same. And in my opinion, and I agree with Mark, that the Brexit could be a good occasion to change the game for that. Because, of course, and if you look at what happened today at this time, the European Union wants to have a hard Brexit. Because it wants to be a lesson for all the rest
for the
of
Poles,
the country,
for the Hungarians, for the French,
and so maybe yes, London will have to find a new connection with Moscow, and I would like to underline that the sanctions are not popular even inside the European elite since the beginning. Joe Biden said it. he said that when they decided to take sanctions after the Ukrainian events, only Angela Merkel agreed to do it. It means that François Hollande was against, all the other countries were against. It's Joe Biden who said it. So at this time, everybody knows in Europe that the sanctions against Russia are counterproductive, something that to be abolished as soon as possible, but nobody wants to do it.
Let's go back to Marcus in London here. I mean, both of you bring up a very good point. This could be an opening here because we know that in Europe the sanctions against Russia are not popular. And with this report coming out, the nothing burger that I'm holding in my hand, would this be an opportunity to save face and to say, well, look, I mean, there was no collusion there, and the UK is out or will be out by then of the European Union, to take a fresh look? Or has Russophobia taken such a deep, has such deep roots right now that would be very almost impossible to do?
Well, Russophobia, certainly in London and other capitals in Western Europe, has been embedded for centuries. It's certainly not a new thing. Though the European Union is not happy with the sanctions that it had to place on Russia, nonetheless, it is a strategic ally to the United States. The European Union at the moment is coming under immense pressure to stop trading with Iran. Yeah. Now, once again, the Germans and the French are not happy about that. But regrettably, Peter, when push comes to shove, the Europeans do back down. Why? Because in the context of Iran, the choice on offer from the Trump administration to the Europeans is this: you either have access to the American market, 300 million people, or you have access to the Iranian market. I'm not being disrespectful to the Iranian market, but in terms of business people are going to choose the American market. And just going back to the Robert Mueller investigation, I think it's an opportunity to really analyze and launch an investigation into Western...
I agree with you on that. Okay, Marcus Papadopoulos, thank you very much for joining us on this part of the program here. We're going to go to a short break now, and after that short break, we'll continue our discussion on the Mueller Report. Stay with RT. Welcome back to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. To remind you, we're discussing the Mueller Report. And now we go to Athens, and we're joined by Alex Christophori. He's the director and writer for the Duran.com. Welcome to the program, Alex. This part of the program, I want to talk about media coverage of this entire Mueller investigation fiasco. That's my word here. Of course, we had a lot of tears, literally tears on Rachel Maddow's program. Poor thing. You know, well, if I was paid $30,000 a program to talk about that, I probably, who wouldn't do it, I suppose? But I have a conscience, and she doesn't. Alex, you know, even now, there are Democrats, and of course, you know, CNN reflects their point of view, or they're in lockstep. They're so angry that they want to call Mueller to have him put under oath to answer questions about this. They want the underlying information and research and materials and evidence that is the foundation of the report, and no one's read the report as we're sitting here right now. So the media isn't taking it very well, but they didn't do a very good job during the last 2.5 years. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, Mueller was going to be the savior, wasn't he, Peter? He was going to save the United States from the evils that was Donald Trump. And now they are turning on Mueller. I think this is pretty predictable. It's quite fascinating to watch the meltdown, both on MSNBC with Maddow and on CNN.
I enjoy it. I hope you do too.
Oh yeah. It's very, very fun to watch. But you know, one of the biggest consequences, Peter, of this entire Mueller 2-year-plus witch hunt, we got the word fake news.
Yep.
The American public now does not believe CNN, or at least half of the American public, half plus, does not believe CNN, MSNBC, New York Times. We got fake news. We got the deep state. Now, no one ever talked about the deep state before this. Now everyone talks about the deep state. We got corruption. No one ever thought the United States government was going to be, or is, this corrupt. No one ever thought that Hillary Clinton could rig the Democrat primaries. No one ever thought any of these things. And the Mueller investigation brought this out. It's incredible to watch the blowback to the media and to the government and to the intelligence agencies that this Mueller report actually developed into.
You know, it's interesting, Xavier, because during the same time period, it's alternative media like where you are right now, and a lot of podcasts have essentially displaced this legacy media for exactly the same reasons that Alex Christoforou mentioned. I mean, people simply don't believe it, and they believe it is fake news, and they believe that they're not being told the truth here. And if you look at, particularly, I'm thinking of television in America anyway, when you, well, even BBC in the UK, but, you know, MSNBC and CNN.
In France, BFM TV, it's exactly the same. And, you know, for instance, if we can talk about 5 seconds about the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
It's now impossible for a team of BFM TV to go in the street during demonstration because people want to kick them. And not because people are bad, because they know that this is a pillar of the power. Of the Macron's power, of the French
it's essentially
deep state power.
If you look at Trump supporters when he goes to his stadiums, they say lock her up, because that's their message to the media.
But the most interesting, in my opinion, it's a new Democrat narrative, the new journalist narrative for the Mueller report, because first, it was supposed to be, as you say, the end of this operation, the end of...
Because it would be the end of Trump.
The end of Trump.
That's why.
But no, it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
So
right, okay, what Churchill's famous saying.
They are going to start a new Neo-Mueller report by themselves. So it means that, you know, they are a very good liar, because when you're a good liar, you never say you lied, okay? You continue till the end, even denying the evidence. And so what they do, no, I mean the US journalists. And just to conclude on the French media, they don't talk about the Mueller report. For instance, I looked at on BFM TV, I didn't find anything. But when it started, when the accusation started in the United States against Trump, he's supposed to be a Kremlin, a Putin puppet, they were talking about that and we have the same problem in France, in Europe. You want to destroy democracy and so on and so on. But no, the last 3 days, maybe I missed something, but in my opinion, it should be, you know, on the main page on the website of BFM TV or on the news, but no, nothing.
Let's go back to Alex. Alex, you know, Xavier brings up a really good point, and we know that Adler wants to continue. He's and others in the Republican Party, Adam Schiff, for example. I mean, are they going to get eyeballs and clicks for the next stage of this? I mean, after so much of this was hyped. I mean, essentially, if you do the same thing over and over again and get the same result, but expect something different, well, that's the definition of insanity, isn't it, or stupidity?
Yeah, this is terrible that they're going to continue to double down on this. And I think they have to, because the Democrats right now have no platform, Peter. They have no platform. Their entire platform is built on AOC's new Green New Deal on climate change. They have nothing else. They have a lot of things that they could run on, absolutely, but they don't. They're going to double down on this Russia witch hunt, this hoax, and the media is going to help them with this. And not only that, Xavier also brought up a good point. We also learned how in bed the social media giants in Silicon Valley are with the DNC and the Democrats, Twitter, Facebook. And because of that, we got a lot of new social media channels like Minds and Gab, which are now fighting the censorship caused by the Mueller report. Thank you very much, Democrats. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. Thank you, Mueller. Because of you guys, we have this censorship and this global crackdown on free speech and on alternative voices.
That's a very good point, Xavier. That's one of the, I hope it was one of the unintended consequences of all of this here. But they really want to, because of this whole hoax, they want to narrow political discourse. They want to narrow discussions, because we have all this deplatforming going on, and it's primarily affecting conservative voices. They just simply don't want to hear it. And it's really the result of the wrong person won the American presidency in 2006. Yeah. The people were wrong. The Electoral College is dysfunctional. We have to change that. We have to open the borders. We have to lower the voting age, you know, because of this terrible sin that was committed in 2016.
In my opinion, the left, the US left, had another problem. It's because inside the Democrat Party, you know, there is some people who don't care about the anti-Russian war of the deep state. And for instance, I was reading a statement from Tutsi Gabbard, the Hawaii MOP, and she told exactly what I think. She said that calling Trump a Putin puppet pushed the Trump administration to almost a war with Russia.
So, I mean, Trump being a puppet, let me go back to Alex Christopher. I mean, this is so ironic here. I mean, which president recently has been the most anti-Russian president? Donald Trump has been, for God's sake. All right, but he's still Putin's puppet here. They can't shake that loose. I mean, again, a vivid contradiction right in your face. He's still mysteriously a puppet of the Kremlin. Go ahead.
Yeah, if he's a puppet, he's the worst puppet. And not only is he a puppet of the Kremlin, Peter, but this puppet of the Kremlin, they'll increase the military budget for this puppet of the Kremlin, won't they? They'll support him on every war that he wages, won't they? They'll support this puppet of the Kremlin for these things. For NATO expansion, they'll support him. So, I mean, it's the narrative is absolutely ridiculous. And the worst part about it, another revelation, the worst part is that you have these neocons that are now sitting in Trump's administration, and they're pushing for more regime change war. You also have neocons, Peter, like Max Boot, Brennan, and Clapper, who are on MSNBC. These guys got promotions after Iraq, and now they're talking on MSNBC, and they're contributors on MSNBC. All because of this entire Russiagate fiasco.
It's interesting, Alex, because your point is well taken. The dreadful outcome of all this is that you have neocon capture of the left and right, of across the political spectrum.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. They're everywhere now, and they're open about it. And people are talking. People are saying neocons openly. Yeah, we're neocons.
Yeah, well,
we're neocons, and we believe X, Y, and Z.
And neocons can never be wrong, even when they're wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, I was very surprised because, again, I was looking at on Fox News, and main of the Republican MOP speeches was to say that, of course, there is no Russian collusion, but Russia is a dictator, and Putin, he don't like democracy, neither in his own country nor in the other country, and he wants to be involved in actually the narrative, the Republican, the basic Republican narrative hasn't changed.
We have here, and I want Alex Christopher to respond to this. We basically have a baseline now across the spectrum. Is that quote unquote Russia did meddle in the election? Yeah. Then there's a subdivision. Some votes were changed. The other side says no votes were changed. And now with the Mueller report, either there was or wasn't collusion. So we have, according to Mueller, no collusion, or at least where we're told here. But the baseline is there was meddling. So that is really baked in now. Alex.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Peter. The underlying truth of all of this, whether you're MSNBC or Fox News, is that, yes, Russia did meddle in the elections. What that means, no one knows. What does it mean, meddle? Oh, Mueller indicted some troll farms in St. Petersburg. They don't even get that part correct. I wish someone would just tell them, there are social media marketing companies in Russia. Oh, my God. There's social media marketing companies in the United States.
We need another investigation.
Yeah. What they do is they harvest users on social media, so they get their emails, they get their accounts, and they build marketing lists. They take those marketing lists and they sell them to the highest bidder. Yes, these companies exist in Russia. Absolutely. Mueller, you want to indict them? Go ahead.
Xavier, you know, this whole event, this whole episode has changed so much in our lives right now, and there's no returning right now. I mean, and I think because of the injection of social media into all of this here, that is weaponized just about everything. Yeah, but you know, I'm concerning France or concerning Europe, I'm a little bit concerned because we have not such a First Amendment like in the U.S. Constitution. So what I observe now in France, especially, is they try to put some censorship. Even on the social media, with Facebook, with Twitter, and so I'm a little bit concerned about that. But I agree that there is new social media. We started working in France, for instance, the French VContact. Actually, you know, actually, we're going to end on this note here because it's actually energized people like ourselves here. That's all the time we have here. Many thanks to my guests here in Moscow, Athens, and in London. And thanks to our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time. And remember, crosstalk rules.